back to my channel, Side Hustle Seattle. So outside of what is the best platform, the question I get asked the most by people is, how do you actually get started as a RON? So if you're becoming a notary public or especially a remote online notary, the process can be very confusing, very overwhelming. So I decided to make a video that can kind of break down the steps that I think you should take in order to become a RON to hopefully help anybody who may be confused. So hopefully this is very straightforward. I'm not rambling or anything like that, but let's just go ahead and jump right into the first thing. So first things first, if you are considering being a remote online notary, the first thing you have to know is if your state actually allows for remote online notary work. I want to say most states allow for it now, but not all of them do. So the easiest way to know if your state allows for it is literally just to Google search it. Just Google becoming a remote online notary in XYZ state. And when you do so, you'll typically see like two search results pop up. You'll see the one for your state website, and you'll see one for the NNA, which is the National Notary Association. I typically will open up both. Of course, you'll need your state website because that's where you'll actually apply. That's where we'll have all the rules and laws. The National Notary Association, however, has a ton of information and resources, and they typically break it down in like a checklist. So I find it really easy to just get like a broad overview before I dive into the actual state site, because sometimes state sites look like they were made in like Windows 98. You know, they're just like hard to navigate. So I use the NNA as just like a quick reference tool. So I'll go ahead and just link the NNA page that you can search for your state real quick to see if it actually allows for remote online notary work. And if it does, of course, you can get that checklist. But again, always just Google search it. That is the quickest and easiest way to figure out if your state actually allows for RON work. And for people who are new to the space, a remote online notary, often referred to as RON, it is just the acronym. So yeah, if it allows for RON work, then boom, we can go over to the next step. Now, the next step that I would choose may seem a little premature for some people, but honestly, the next thing I would do was look into platforms. So before I even applied for anything, I would look to see what platforms are actually available in my state. Mainly because based on what you're looking for when it comes to remote online notary work, your state may or may not allow the platforms that actually give you that thing. So for example, some states allow you to use any platform that meets their audiovisual requirements, and some states make you pick from a select group of platforms. So for example, I'm commissioned in 2 states. I'm commissioned to do RON work in Washington, and they allow you to use any platform that just meets the laws. And I'm also commissioned here in Colorado, and they have a set list of platforms to choose from. So one thing you'll notice is there's typically 4 different types of platforms, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. So the 4 different types of platforms are essentially platforms that give you clients. So you don't need to do any of the legwork. You're essentially a contractor for that platform, and they will provide you clients. There's also platforms where they allow you to bring your own clients, which means you just have access to the platform and you are allowed to go source your own signers, your own clients, and you can sign their documents using that platform software. There's platforms that give you both. They'll give you clients, but also allow you to bring your own. And then there's more of like, I call them partner platforms, but they're kind of like enterprise platforms. They mainly work with businesses. So what will happen is, let's say a business gives you a signing, then you'll be allowed to use that platform that that business is tied to. A little bit confusing, but that's essentially the 4 different types. So let's say that you are one of those people who you're like, I only want to do remote online notary work if I'm able to be giving clients. You're like, I only want to do remote online notary work if somebody gives me clients. I don't want to market. I don't want to do any of the legwork. Well, if you find out that those platforms aren't available in your state, there's no point in applying, right? Which is why it's important to do the work ahead of time. And to be frank, there's really only very few platforms that actually give you clients. So if that is what you're looking for, there's a good chance that your state doesn't actually have that platform available. So definitely make sure to do your research if that is you're looking to get sent clients. Now, let's say that you're somebody who doesn't need to get sent clients, you're fine bringing your own clients onto the platform. Well, luckily, there's a lot of platforms available that more likely than not will be available in your state, but they're not all built the same, right? Like some have monthly fees that you have to pay. Some have, transaction costs that you have to pay. Some make you buy credits. So you'll want to make sure you do your research, because maybe the platform that's available in your state you just don't like, or it's expensive, or it's clunky, etc. So it's really important to, before you do your application, figure out what platforms are available and which ones you want to use. Now, finding a platform is actually really confusing. It can be hard. It's a lot of research. So luckily I have done the research before. If you see my channel, then you know that. But I have a free Google spreadsheet that has all of the remote online notary platforms that I know of and basic information. What states they're available in, how much they cost, the general setup, pros and cons, etc. So that is always linked in my description. Again, it is free. Please make a copy of the spreadsheet if you want to edit it. So you're totally allowed to make a copy, but if you go in and start to click around, you won't be able to type anything or edit it because it is view only. So please make a copy if you want that, but of course check the link in the description for that document. Okay, so next thing, now that you know your state allows for RON work, now that you know what platforms you are using, next thing is the application process, right? So you're just gonna go to your state's website, follow the instructions as laid out by your state in order to get approved to become a remote online notary. One thing that you realize is, regardless of what state you're in, everybody has to become a traditional notary public before they can be a RON, right? So traditional notary public just means you're approved to do in-person notarizations. So really think of RON work as like an additional permission on top of your notary public commission versus like its own thing, if that makes it easier to understand. But anyways, like with everything, every state varies so much. So some states make you take a training and a test, some make you get a surety bond, some make you get X, Y, and Z. So my suggestion is don't ask somebody else what the steps are, just go to your state website because it's always going to be the most up-to-date information. Boom, okay. So now you are officially a RON, right? You've done the application, you've gotten approved, you're a RON. So now that you're a remote online notary, there's typically two things that you have to get in order to really start doing the work. That is a digital certificate, and that is an electronic notarial seal. Now, this is where it's important to know what your particular platform that you're using is going to provide, because some actually make you get the digital certificate through them. Some provide the electronic notarial seal, some don't, right? So it's important to just look up to see what exactly you need to start with that particular platform itself. If you have any questions, just call them, just ask. That's always the easiest way to get your answer. But you may be asking, like, what's a digital certificate? What's electronic notarial seal? So let's start with the electronic notarial seal because it's the most straightforward. So essentially that is just an electronic version of your physical stamp. So when you're notarizing a document, you have a stamp that has your name, commission number, state, etc. It's just an electronic version of that. That way you can drag and drop it onto documents as you're notarizing remotely. Now, a lot of platforms actually will make that for you, but not all do. So again, just ask. And if not, you can buy it from a bunch of different websites. I know the NNA has them for like $20. You can buy them off a bunch of different notary websites. They're pretty basic. They're like in image format, so like a PNG, a JPEG, and it's something that you'll upload during your application process with the platform. So keep it simple. Electronic notarial seal, just electronic version of your physical notarial seal. That's all it is. Now, digital certificate. This is the more confusing one, but you don't need to know the ins and outs of it. Essentially, a digital certificate is just an encryption key. It essentially just helps make the document secure. So if you finish notarizing a document and you send it to somebody, it makes it like tamper evident. So if somebody were to go in and try to change something, you would be able to go in the back end and see that it was changed, right? Because the way it works is your digital certificate is tied to you. It's almost like a fingerprint. So when you finish a document, it's gonna say that you did it when you last opened it. So that way, if anybody messes with it, anybody can see that it's been messed with. So most people, I should say, get it through a company called Identrust. So Identrust does digital certificates, and they'll do them for pretty much any platform that doesn't make you get them through that platform directly. So you just go on Identrust, you pick which platform you're getting it for. It doesn't really matter which platform you pick. It's the same digital certificate, but it just makes you pick one to make sure that you're getting the right thing. And you'll see that it's anywhere between like $62 to $149, and that's just based on how long you want it for. You can get it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and essentially you'll pay for it. It's something that you'll download that'll live on your computer, and when you actually do the application process, you'll just go ahead and you'll upload your digital certificate. That way, when you're done closing out a notarization, it's all secure and tamper evident. Now, here's the thing. It's confusing. It confuses everybody. I feel like everybody messes up that process. Your best case scenario, just call Identrust as you're purchasing it, because it just they can walk you through all the steps, so that way you don't have any hiccups, you don't have any questions, because it can be fairly confusing. But just know, most of the time you will have to get that digital certificate yourself. Now, let's say your platform makes you buy the digital certificate through them. So for example, I want to say Vodovoz and Sinex make you get the digital certificate through them. If you buy it directly from a platform, you cannot use that digital certificate on any other platform. It lives within that platform itself. But let's say you get the digital certificate from Identrust, you can use that digital certificate on any platform that doesn't make you get it directly from them. So the good thing about getting your own is that you can use it for multiple platforms. Same thing with your electronic notarial seal. If you get your own, then you can use it for multiple platforms. You don't have to get more than one. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but anyways, I will link to the Identrust website where you can get your digital certificate. I'll also link to a couple different places where you can get your electronic notarial seal. But just keep in mind, those are two things you more than likely will need in order to actually get started. You know what I just realized? I'm talking so fast right now. Like, I know that I'm just moving a mile a minute. So if you're just confused and you're like, I literally can't keep up, go ahead and put this video in slow-mo. I'm so sorry. I will try to be better throughout the rest of the video. But where do we leave off? Boom. So now you have your digital certificate and you have your electronic notarial seal. What is next? For me, it would be training, right? And there's two different types of training, I guess. There's the training on how to actually use the platform, and there's just training on how to actually do notarizations or loan signings or whatever you plan to do. Now, as far as training for the platform, whatever platform you pick is going to have its own training. You do not have to worry about that. I have never seen a platform or been on a platform that didn't have pretty thorough training. So they're gonna have pre-recorded demos, they're gonna have office hours, they're gonna have ways that you can call them or chat with them to get your questions answered. So more likely than not, you will be able to get fully trained on how to use that platform. Also, most platforms have like a test feature, so that way you can do like fake notarizations, so just so you can get used to like drag and dropping stuff on the screen, and you feel confident when you're actually in the middle of a signing with the signer. So I wouldn't worry about that come time. Now, the other training would be how to actually do notarizations or loan signings. Here's my thing about trainings, right? I would say if you're brand new, go with the free option first, right? So Google, YouTube, there is so much information out there. I found that the notary community is pretty generous when it comes to sharing information. So I would just say YouTube it for sure, Google it for sure if you have any questions on just how to do basic notarizations or even loan signings. But if you do actually want to take a training, which is fine, I've taken trainings, I've taken 3, but that's also why I'm saying go the free version first, because I found that I spent money that I didn't need to, and I want to make sure that other people don't do that also if you don't need to, right? But I took the National Notary Association Notary like basic course, which was actually very good. I took the National Notary Association loan signing course because I am a certified loan signing agent. And I also took the loan signing system loan signing course. And I would say all 3 were good. You definitely don't need all 3. But if you are interested, I'll go ahead and just link them in the description. So that way you can check them out if you feel like you just need to be a little bit more confident before you do your work. Now, one thing I will say, you can get sued if you don't do notarizations right. Don't do notarizations right, don't do loan signings right, you can get sued. So it is very, very, very important to be confident and know what you're doing before you do it. I'm not saying spend, thousands of dollars on training just so you know every little thing, but you should know how to do notarizations. You should know your state law, because you can and will get taken to court if you mess something up and it ends up costing somebody money or time or inconvenience on the back end, right? So I just want to make that very clear, that it is a serious business when you go and do it, okay? So just please make sure to follow and know your state laws and read them often, because they tend to change more often than you think they would. Okay, so I feel like I could not have made a video without touching on marketing. I will be the first to admit there are way better people out there at marketing themselves than I am, but I can give you the basics. And it's one of the questions I get a lot, which is like, hey, I'm officially a run, I have everything, now what? How do I get clients? How do I market my business? And I think that's one of the confusions that I've seen a lot of people have, is I think a lot of people treat being a notary public or a run almost like gig work, right? Which is like, you check the boxes, you're like, yep, check that, have all that, I flip a switch and now everybody come to me. It's not like that. You are your own business. So you are going to have to market, you're going to have to hustle, you're going to have to brand yourself, you're going to have to bring in your own clients. You're officially an entrepreneur, so congratulations. And if that is not something that is really for you, one, that's okay. But just know that that is what it entails when it comes to this business. So just keep that in mind. I want to make sure that you have that expectation going into it. Now, when it comes to marketing, stick to the basics, right? The first thing you want to do, no matter what you're marketing, hit your network first. So your network being your friends, your family, your social media, your community, because who better to trust you and your services than people who already know you, right? It's hard to convince a stranger to use you, but a little bit easier to convince people who already know you. And you tend to get more word of mouth when it comes to like your family. You tell your mom, who tells your cousin, who tells their auntie, right? So it's just a little bit easier to spread the word that way. Second thing I would do is 100% have a digital presence. So that can be a Facebook page for your business, that could be a website, that could be an Instagram page. My thing is, one, it makes you more reputable, but also what you'll find when it comes to remote online notary work or just notary public work in general, there's so much information that a person kind of needs up front, that it's nice to have it all in one page. Like, what are your prices? How do they contact you? What all entails? How long is it going to take? Right? You don't want to really write that in a tweet or a text. It's a lot easier to just point somebody to an actual web page where they can look and see that you're a real business and a real person and they can actually trust you. So if you want all three of those, great, but I'd say at least have one of those between a Facebook page, Instagram, or website. Now, when it comes to making a website, I honestly prefer Wix for a website, but you can use whatever works for you. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to have the most amazing website in the world, but just something for people to reference. Also, when it comes to advertising, you can put your information on Yelp. You can also make a Google My Business page. I have a Google My Business page. That's actually how a lot of my clients get sourced. That's actually been very helpful for me. So those are different ways that you can also advertise your business. Or if you're into more traditional ways of advertising, your business card, your t-shirts, your pins, your koozies, you can just hit like a Vista Print. My thing is, try not to spend too much money up front. Again, you'll probably notice the theme throughout the video. It's like, I want to make sure you don't do too much too soon, right? It's really easy to be like so excited that you're like, yeah, I'm gonna purchase this training, these things, these business cards, and you realize you didn't really need it. Try to spend as little money as possible in the beginning with just the essentials. That way you kind of go off to a slow roll, so that way you don't spend too much money up front and you can kind of put it back into your business. Before I get to the last point, I just wanted to mention a couple of housekeeping things that have come up a lot in conversations that I've had with people. Those being, should I get an LLC? Should I get an EIN? Should I get insurance? Now, when it comes to your LLC or your EIN, that is solely up to you, right? It's going to be different for everybody based on your situation. So when it comes to specifically those two, I highly suggest just reaching out to a tax professional. Reach out to a certified public accountant or a CPA to make sure that you have something lined up that fits your personal life, your business need, your tax situation. Everybody's gonna have a different opinion on the matter, but again, it's so specific to you that it's important to make sure that you're actually contacting a professional, so that way you can go about creating your business and getting into this entrepreneurial world in the right way. I personally don't have an LLC, but I do have an EIN, but again, that is specific to me. Now, when it comes to insurance is insurance, right? You know what it's there for. It's there just in case something happens. So up to you if you want to get it. I like insurance. You don't have to get it, but I personally think it's good. There's typically two different types of insurances that you'll see. So there is notarial errors and omission insurance, and then there's professional liability insurance. Those are typically the two that you'll see from people who are notary publics or loan signing agents. Now, notarial errors and omissions insurance only protects you from mistakes that were made during the notarization. So let's say that you're notarizing a document, you incorrectly do it, and it causes some sort of distress for the third party, then it will cover you under that. Now, professional liability insurance is something that covers you for everything around it, right? So let's say that you are a loan signing agent and you finish the document, you know, all the notarizations are correct, but when you're going to ship the document back to, you know, the loan office or wherever you got it from, it's delayed or you delayed it, and now it caused the buyer to lose their interest rate and they want to sue you because they're upset. That is what professional liability insurance for. It protects you for everything else essentially around the notarization. So typically what I found is if you are doing general notary work, you'll get notarial errors and omissions insurance. If you're a loan signing agent, they almost always have professional liability insurance, and most of the time companies will make you have, or I shouldn't say make you, require you to have at least $100,000 in professional liability insurance to even work with them in the first place. So keep in mind, those are the two options. I will link to them in the description if you are looking to get those. I got my Notarial E&O insurance through the NNA. I'm not sponsored by the NNA. I know I've mentioned them like 10,000 times. It's just who I ended up going with. But it was like $25 for the year, I want to say. And then professional liability insurance, a lot of people get it from this company called by Burke, but you can get it through whatever company suits your needs. So I will link to both of those in the description just in case you are interested in those. So that brings me to my last and final point, and I know you're like, thank God, because I feel like I've been talking for 30 minutes, but that is just get started. I have so many people that I've talked to who are like, yeah, I have everything ready, I'm just waiting for X, Y, and Z to start, right? Like, you don't need the perfect website or headshots or business cards to start your journey. And I think there's something to be said for doing it right from the beginning, but I think there's a very big difference between doing it right and stalling, right? And so my suggestion is just go for it. Like, get your feet wet. Do a couple notarizations with friends and family, so that way you just get the hang of it, see if you like it, see how it flows. Because my thing is, if you're becoming a remote online notary for the first time, that means you've never done it. So quite frankly, you don't know if you like it. You may do 5 or 6 notarizations and be like, actually, I absolutely hate this, right? And that's okay. But what you don't want to do, or what I wouldn't want to do, is go build this like grand brand when I don't even know if I'm gonna like what I'm doing. So just do a couple, get your feet wet, get the ball rolling, and then start building it out as you go along. Now that is very specific to me. That's how I like to approach most things. But if you're one of those people who likes to have all your ducks in a row before you get started, cool, right? If it works for you, it works for me. Just do what works for you. But anyways, that is the end of the video. Thank you. If you sat through the whole video, thank you. But anyways, what do you think? Did I miss anything? Hopefully it wasn't too confusing. I'll try to put like as many screenshots and links as possible to help you navigate everything that I was talking about. But let me know if you think I missed anything along those steps. I hope this was helpful for you and helped answer a lot of questions if you are looking to become a remote online notary. But anyways, thank you so much for watching my video, and best of luck on your remote online notary journey. You got this. I will catch you in the next video.
Yeah.